Welcome friends. Today we are going to talk about the cortex. We have already uploaded one video for introduction to central nervous system. Now we are going to talk about one by one. Starting from today, that is cortex. So what are the things we are going to learn here? It is the describing the primary areas of cortex and their specific associated areas. To describe the cortex as responsible of comprehension and production of language, able to classify association cortex, either unimodal or heteromodal, and predicting the consequences of cortical lesions. So one by one, we'll go through it. So first of all, motor areas. So there is primary motor area, or then that is supplementary motor area, premotor association area. The primary motor area, as you can see, this green color mark, located in the precentral gyrus of frontal lobe, responsible for motor output to the contralateral side of the body, means opposite side of the body. Outflow from primary motor area makes up the corticospinal tract. Then about the supplementary motor area, they are located just anterior to the primary motor area in the frontal lobe. The supplementary motor area lies superior to the premotor area. Supplementary motor area contains motor maps for postures, means how you are standing, affects innervate limbs and truncal musculature, means it different innervation of the limbs and truncal musculature is also supplied by the supplementary motor area. Then premotor association area, it is involved in the higher order processing and integration of motor information. So these two are especially the primary motor area and supplementary motor area. Then you can see motor related more areas. These two we have already studied, primary motor area, supplementary motor area. Then frontal eye field. The frontal eye fields are located in the supplementary motor area and extends on the anterior side. They are involved in the eye movements. Then motor hand area, hook-like segment of precentral gyrus, located just posterior to the frontal eye field. The motor hand area is responsible for motor hand functions. So these are the two specific areas. Next, we are going to study the somatosensory area. So primary somatosensory area and somatosensory association area. The primary somatosensory area is located in the post-central gyrus of the parietal lobe. You can see the color, blue color, which is just behind the central gyrus. Sensory efferents from contralateral peripheral receptors travel to the thalamus and ultimately project to the primary somatosensory area. The afferent projection retain a somatotrophic organization. So what is somatotrophic organization? When a specific part of body is associated with the distinct location in the central nervous system, it is called a somatotropic organization. Means which particular part of body part will be associated with which particular part of the central nervous system. This association is called somatotrophic organization. So primary somatosensory area is post-central gyrus of parietal lobe. Then somatosensory association area, just more posterior to it, located posterior to the primary somatosensory area in the parietal lobe, allows for the interpretation of significance of sensory information such as touch, pressure, and proprioceptive information. The somatosensory association area is specifically for the sensory information like touch and pressure. Next, we have to see the visual areas. So there are two types of visual areas, primary and visual association area. The primary visual area is present in the banks of the calcarine sulcus. This is calcarine sulcus in occipital lobe. On the medial aspect of occipital lobe, fibers from retina project to the lateral geniculate nucleus of thalamus. Remember, retina say light will be for L for lateral geniculate nucleus of thalamus. And from these fibers travel as optic radiation to the primary visual cortex. So the primary visual cortex is retinotopically organized like this. Fibers from upper visual field go to the inferior bank of the calcarine sulcus. Fibers from lower visual field, they go to the superior bank of the calcarine sulcus. You can see here the blue color which is marking. Then fibers from lower visual area, you can see the next part which is showing, which is illuminating right now. It will be in the superior bank of the calcarine. In the region of highest visual acuity in retina, the fovea will be represented near the occipital pole. You can see the occipital pole downside here. It was blinking. Occipital pole. This is the area where the light when falls on fovea, it will be represented here. So this was about the primary visual area located at the banks of calcarine sulcus in the medial aspect of occipital bone. The visual association area, the other parts in the occipital bone surround the primary visual cortex on medial surface of occipital lobe. As you can see the color, this area gives some meaning and interpretation to the visual area. Means whatever we have seen, how to make out that meaning and how to interpret the meaning, this work will be done by this association area. Now coming to the auditory areas, again two types, primary auditory and second auditory association area. So primary auditory area, it is composed of transverse Hessel's gyri. You can see here, this is Hessel's gyri within the lateral fissure and a strip of cortex of superior surface of superior temporal gyrus in temporal lobe. This particular part will be primary auditory. Remember the word Hessel's gyri and superior temporal gyrus in the temporal lobe only. Auditory information reaches the cochlea, projects the medial geniculate nucleus. Remember, light वाला आया था, lateral geniculate, hearing वाला आएगा, medial geniculate nucleus of thalamus, and then projects to the primary auditory cortex. Information from cochlea travels both ipsilaterally and contralaterally such that each ear is represented in a bilateral manner on the cortex. So both the type of information will be traveled from cochlea to the cortex, that is auditory part. Now talking about the auditory association area, it is just surrounding it, yani adjacent to the primary auditory area on the lateral surface of superior temporal gyrus only, allows to interpret the sound and gives the meaning. That whatever sound we are hearing, it will be interpreted in this particular area. Now coming to the insular cortex. Insular means hidden or छुपा हुआ. The insular cortex as a whole, the insula has very wide array of functions, including involvement in the consciousness, emotions, self-awareness, and cognitive functions. You can see all very important functions are involved here. Consciousness, emotions, self-awareness, and cognitive function. This whole thing is in the insula. Then there is a primary gustatory area. It is an important primary sensory area in the primary gustatory area located in insular cortex itself within the lateral fissure. The insular cortex also gives the primary gustatory area, the location where the maximum number of tastes is going to be identified. Next come the language areas, the Broca's and Wernicke's. These are two areas connected by a deep fiber called as arcuate fasciculate, which are the fibers which are connecting the both. This connecting network allows us to produce the world that makes sense and understand what is said and respond appropriately. Means whatever we have heard, what is the answer to be given, which can make some sense and which can be understood by the other person. This connecting network is going to do the function. Network of Broca's and Wernicke's area connected by arcuate fasciculum. The dominant hemisphere deal with these important language functions. Non-dominant hemisphere concerned with the melody of language, accent, and tone of voice. So you can understand the Broca's areas first. So this is Broca's area located in the frontal lobe anterior to the premotor association fiber. This was premotor association fiber or supplementary motor area we have seen. This allows for the production of all forms of language. So this particular area is not for all type of languages. Then there is Wernicke's area, spans the parietal and temporal lobe around the lateral fissure and primary auditory area, allows for the comprehension of language. The comprehensive part will be done by the Wernicke's area and production part will be done by the Broca's area. Remember, Broca's area is in the frontal lobe and Wernicke's area is basically in the parietal and temporal lobes. Next, we have to see some other association areas like frontal association area, parietal association area, and temporal association area. So first of all, frontal association area located in the frontal lobe anterior to the supplementary motor area or premotor area and is referred to prefrontal cortex. Remember the word prefrontal cortex, which has extensive connections with other areas of brain, including sensory and motor cortex, basal ganglia, cerebellum, amygdala, hypothalamus, and brainstem. This area of cortex is important for executive functions like memory, problem solving, attention, planning, and cognitive flexibility. So this particular area gives you the different types of memories, problem solving capacity also is given by the this area only. Next come parietal association area. You can see this area located posterior to the primary somatosensory or post central gyrus. This area is involved orienting our attention in time and space and highly interconnected with prefrontal cortex. Always remember, brain does the functions with the different type of associations only, connections only. Any part of brain will be not doing function itself by own, but has to take help of other function areas also. Next part is temporal association area. It is widespread across the temporal lobe, as the name suggests, critical for making the link between the visual stimulus of face or objects and its meaning and identification. So whatever we see, whatever visual stimulus of face expressions we can identify, then how to understand them, how to interpret them, this particular thing will be done by the temporal association area. So you can understand these association areas, all three are very important. One is basically for memory, problem solving, attention, planning, and cognitive flexibility. Next one is for orienting our attention. And the last one is for the visual stimulus and its meaning, how to understand them. Next is classifying association cortex. So association cortex, the higher order of information processing, can be classified into unimodal or heteromodal. What is unimodal? It is higher order information processing of a single sensory or motor modality. Unimodal association cortex are generally located adjacent to primary motor or sensory area. So whatever is related to primary motor or sensory area, it will be called as unimodal, and they carry uni means single sensory or motor modality. Heteromodal, rest all involved in the integrating function from the multiple modalities. So when more than one modalities are going to act or going to interpret it, then this particular heteromodal association cortex will come. So till now, what we have seen the cerebral cortex, which covers the entire surface of brain, can be classified based on the functions. The functions of distinct cortical areas whose boundaries are delineated by the major gyri and sulci have been well described, resulting in the functional map. This was called the functional map of the cerebral cortex. Like primary, unimodal or heteromodal areas, the primary cortical areas have very specific singular function. These areas include primary motor and somatosensory areas, as well as primary areas responsible for senses like vision, hearing, taste, and smell. Unimodal areas include association areas responsible for higher order processing of a single sensory modality. These areas include visual, auditory, and somatosensory association area, as well as supplementary motor, premotor, and language areas. Heteromodal includes association areas responsible for integration for multiple sensory or motor modalities, including all the functional areas. So this particular small lecture will give you a basic knowledge about the functional mapping of the brain. So that's all for this lecture. We'll upload very soon other related modules also. Thank you.